So good morning. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be among you. The tragedy of the September 8 in Morocco in the El House region unfortunately led to almost 3,000 deaths and destroyed entire villages and harmed communities. But it also shed light on fragile yet vivid traditional urban fabrics and communities. And our role as architects, but not only architects, of course, it's to help, to repair, and to save. But before trying to help, you have to understand the logical behind these urban fabrics, this heritage, because it's a very specific kind of architecture and urban fabric. You have to understand the internal logic, the forces that drive this kind of architecture in order to use the best tools possible to help to rebuild and to repair this kind of architecture and communities. Basically in Morocco, we have two main kind of heritage. We have what we call the old Medinas, which are the old cities. This one, for example, is the Medina of Fez. I will talk a little bit about it. And you have the great south of Morocco heritage, which is mostly in earth and stone architecture. And you can find some similarities between the two. And again, you have to understand the internal logic and the specificity of this heritage before doing anything. So for example, the Medina of Fez, which is the biggest pedestrian area in the world, feature extraordinary phenomena that we have to understand in terms of urban logic, in terms of sociology, in terms of religious rules, in terms even on sustainability features. And we can find a lot of lessons from the study of this kind of urban tissues. So this is the Medina of Fez, as you can see. This is a very organic pattern with very narrow streets, organic shapes. You have a sense of gradations of scale. You have some main focal points like the religious institutions, the mosques, the madrasas. You have a whole system of water supply. You have a sociologic logic which helps you organize the city. So these are forces that you have to understand. And you know, when you look in a closer zoom, it almost looks like abstract painting. And it's a kind of urban fabric when you can deal with the very private, very intimate, and with the, very vivid streets, the busy street, the economic, the shops, and all these internal logic help to shape this kind of cities. You have also what we call the madrasas, which are heritage places with the beautiful decorations, with all the Moresque handcrafts, arts like the zellige, like the stuck. And all these are one-in-one embedded to make this urban area something very unique in the world. So this is, for example, the Madrasa Bouenania in Fez. This is the Atarin. You have all this handcrafts, artisanal, like the zellige, like the calligraphy, like the stuck. And you have also this very special use of the natural elements like the water with a very sophisticated system of supply of water in all the city, which is almost 10 centuries old. You can find this same kind of old cities in other cities, like in Marrakesh, with the Madrasa of Marrakesh, and also in the south, you have this kind of very special urban fabrics, which almost look like abstract painting. So just to say that in this kind of very fragile and sophisticated places, you need to understand this and to to be able to deal with all these internal forces, to be able to propose some tools to repair and to save. And you can have some main features that we can talk a little bit about. So the organicity and natural growth are this kind of urban fabrics. The fact that this is very, direct reflection of the lifestyle, social aspect, the religious aspects, and the economical specificity. The fact that this is something that took centuries to become like it is. So you can't deal with this kind of heritage in a short amount of time, regarding the fact that it took centuries to be like it is. So this notion of time is also very important. You have to understand also that this is not a randomness, because a lot of scholars or Orientalists says that this is a random urban fabric, but in fact you can find a real inherent order, and there is a really nice article by Hassan Radwan which talk about this. You can find the title below. You have to understand that this is very different urban mechanism comparing to the modern urban planning. Also the fact that this is something really sustainable for its time, because of course it's only pedestrian. You have all the resources that come very close from the site. You have this very efficient use of water, passive solutions, and a lot of elements that make these old cities very sustainable, even before that the word sustainability was invented. You can find also some moral principles, because it's not only about organization, architecture, and urbanism, it's also about the fact to reflect moral principles. For example, the way to deal with the neighbor, to have the peace in the community. All these have a direct effect on the organization of this urban fabric. And at the end, you have, beyond the architecture, beyond the physical aspect of the things, you have this sense of order, this sense of serene feeling that you can feel when you visit this kind of heritage. And you can go beyond, because, for example, Frei Otto, the great German architect, studied this kind of tissues and found that maybe one of the explanation is that these urban fabrics is a result of systems that use the very less energy. So it's something that really we can analyze a lot. And we can find some similarities with the great south of Morocco, because it's vernacular, it's something that comes from the community, and it's almost something that it's auto-construction. I mean, it's all this heritage have been made without architects. So this is the Atlas Valley, a beautiful landscape. And we have these famous villages mainly made in earth, sometimes in stone, which are completely integrated in the landscape, and which seem to birth from the ground. It's something very austere, very geometric, very powerful. You have this strong contrast, the shadows, the light, and it's really something very special. All these kind of villages. And we have to understand that it's not something that we can analyze only in a filter of architecture or form or geometry. It's something that it's completely related to the way of life, because it's communities that are mainly working in agriculture, in the breed, all the valleys are in agriculture, and you have this system of social organization with the patriarch, the families, all these are the reflection of the way these people live. And again, we can have some main feature that we can analyze from this heritage of the South. You have this notion of organicity, natural growth, this notion of landscape integration. Of course, again, the fact that these are communities mainly involved in agriculture and breeding, the social, religious, and economical specificity, the interaction with the agriculture, again, the secular maturation, because these are architecture heritage that took centuries to grow. So this is not something we can deal in 6 months or 1 year, because there is this notion of time. Again, this notion of false randomness, because you can find indeed a sense of order, of a logical organization, the sustainability, because these are completely sustainable architecture, which use local material, passive solutions. And again, like the old Medina Fes, it's something which is really powerful and where you can feel a sense of solemnity, of austerity, and of poetry, for sure. It's not a question to idealize, to say that is this something completely beautiful without any problem. Of course, there are a lot of problems, a lack of infrastructures, because sometimes you can't find a school until maybe 1 or 2 kilometers. A lot of poverty, unfortunately, the very rude winters. The fact that now that you have some difficulties, you have this rural exodus, the apparition of concrete constructions, which are very problematic, because it's something really unique. And now you can find here and there like concrete cubes. And one of the main problems also is the dissemination, because these are villages that are really small and disseminated in all the region. So it's very difficult to deal with the roads, with the infrastructure, with the school, with the water supply, etc. So they have a lot of problems that we have to deal with. We have also the heritage of the Kasbah, which are like fortifications, which are, for instance, this one, UNESCO heritage, the Kasbah Eid Ben Haddou, the most famous one, which is beautiful. The Kasbah Tawriq in Ouarzazate. And another very specific heritage that we have in this region is the granaries that are used by all the communities and are very special abstract buildings, mainly in stone or in earth for this one. So, of course, it's a region where you have all the pisé construction, the earth construction, the adobe, sometimes the stone, mainly wood roofs. And you can find, and we will talk maybe later about it, some anti-earthquake solutions, even at this time, with the wood reinforcement, specific stone placement, and so on. Great architects were really inspired by this region, by this architectural heritage, like Zwerfen, Utzon, Luis Barragan, which visited the region in the 40s. So this is something that, as architects, that we have to be proud, that we have to understand, and that we have to know the logical, to be able to act. This is very important. So unfortunately, the disaster of the September 8th, as you can see, really a powerful earthquake, which led to entire villages disappearing. You can see here the differences between the before and after the earthquake. And we have this question of the solidity of the earth construction. And I think that maybe the last decades, the knowledge in the earth construction dropped a little bit because we have very old buildings with reinforcement that supported very well the earthquake. We have concrete buildings very badly constructed, which collapsed. So it's not a question of materials. It's a question of knowledge and of good technical solutions. You have also the Tin Mel Mosque, which is an UNESCO heritage, which unfortunately collapsed also. And we had this very swift and strong response from the state, which was good actually, because in very difficult configurations and situations, the state dealt to propose some emergency houses, tents, etc. And we have this question again of the time, of the notion of emergency, because this is good solutions for emergency situation. But what we will do for the middle term and the long term, and this is the main question for us as architects, because we cannot afford to have this kind of tents. Of course, in 2 or 3 years, we have to act now. We have a set of laws in Morocco dealing with the construction, with the heritage. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the RPCT, which is all the parasismic rules, règlement parasismique en terre, even the one for the auto construction, for people constructing their own buildings. We have a lot of agencies, and of course the communities that we have to talk and that have to participate in the effort, and the authorities. So this is some examples from the earthquake code, and you have a lot of solutions. I mean, it's very easy to use these solutions to have resistant earthquake buildings. You have new materials, very interesting, because it's a mix between industrialization and traditional materials, like this BTC, brique en terre crue. And you have some nice examples. For example, this building in Agadir by Salim Anaji, which is one of the main architects in Morocco dealing with this vernacular heritage and renewing. Of course, like Francis Kéré in Burkina Faso, or Toshiko Bori, it's a beautiful project in the Xinjiang, Senegal. And we have to deal with this context in the south of Morocco with 2 projects that we have done in 10 years ago, the Terroudant University and the Gelmin Technology School. And we implemented a lot of earthquake-resistant solutions, because we had very strong regulation code that we had to respect. At the time, we didn't have the possibility to build in earth because it was forbidden for public project, but because the code regulation that I talked about came later, but we tried to be, in the spirit of the region, in a modern way, to use passive solutions and to respect these earthquake regulations. But maybe if I had to build these 2 projects again now, maybe I would use a mix of a concrete structure and all the rest, all the walls, maybe in earth. I would have loved to do it. So I think as architects, we are part of the solution. We have to have a careful reading of the context. We have to understand that dealing in a short time with centuries-old fabrics and constructions is a very difficult task, because, again, it's very difficult to think in a short time about something which maturated in so long time. You have to understand the habits, the way that these people live, and to deal with modern issues. You have to have the capacity to take a step back, to have a sight on the whole situations. Like, of course, you have to involve communities. You have maybe to act with advisory committees instead of imposing some rules, because it won't work, I think. You have to learn people how to use these modern tools to make this earth building safer. in accordance with the vernacular construction. Maybe we can think about a concrete construction moratorium, if possible, or at least to strongly advise them to avoid, because it's something that is going to, to impact very badly all the region. Maybe it's an occasion also to make some archaeological researches, because unfortunately we had a lot of collapsed buildings, and it's the occasion to analyze. Maybe there are some archaeological elements that we can find. We have to deal with these infrastructure issues, because you now have some people telling that it's an occasion to group all the disseminated villages in bigger villages. But I don't think it's a good solution, because we have to keep the spirit of the region. But at the end, maybe this tragedy is an occasion to deal again with a very beautiful heritage, but very fragile. And I think it's the occasion to think new solutions and to give a new start to this beautiful region. Thank you.